Good evening from Los Angeles. This is Frida Saba and you're watching Global Village. Today we are going to Spain to meet with a renowned Iranian international artist whose exhibitions are going to open in 3 countries, in Iran, in Morocco, and in the United States.
The dust of the desert, sink to the blue, go back to the roots, question 1,000 dreams. Tarhint tadunit. The world is a tent, the world is our tent. Tarhint tadunit. El espíritu noble de los nómadas. The world is our tent.
Welcome to the program, Firouz.
Thank you, Frida, for your continuous interest.
Could you elaborate regarding all these 3 exhibitions? I think under present circumstances, it's very brave and very interesting. In the country, it doesn't have kind of normal situations.
Thank you for asking. I think that sometimes circumstances tend to put you in situations that ask to be answered, and it is true that in this sense it's been a roll of the dice that had brought me here, because it is very true that when I decided to put together this series of different events, I hadn't calculated that the year would start with so much density in the news, and that everything that's been unraveling for the last 10 days would affect so much the presentation of my work. It's for me very interesting to discuss it.
What was your main motivation to open in Iran, especially your home country?
Well, I must thank first the continuous support of Magic of Persia Foundation, which has been accessory to a lot of my different exhibitions, and their backing has been important in the production of some of my shows, including one of the shows you cited earlier in Marrakesh that will open next month. And the show in LA is mostly an auction highlight. That's going to be a 2-day show that's going to precede an auction that will be conducted by Sotheby's on the Wednesday, 12th of February on Hollywood Boulevard. And I am very happy that there will be an exhibition during the 2 days, as it is for me important that the paintings and my work is presented to the public. But it's also very important to me that the works are auctioned towards the good actions of and the, how to say, the continuous relation that this foundation has had with the emerging scene of Iranian artists around the world. People such as Farhod or Shadier Rezai, that I know personally, that are friends, are part of that auction. People that I respect more than anything, like Niki Nojumi or Feridun Ihab, are part of that auction and that exhibition. And it is for me a great honor and a great feeling of happiness to be part of that gala and that auction that will happen on the 12th of February. Now, it is obviously interesting to point out that the show in Iran that's been thought of at least 10 months ago, finally by a roll of dice, like I said earlier, or a circumstance alignment, has come together at the same moment, and that even more ironically on a day difference, meaning the opening of the show in Tehran is on the 22nd of Bahman, which is Revolution Day, the 11th of February. That precedes the day of the auction, that's on the 12th, and the day after opening the exhibition in LA, that's on Monday 10th.
So you open with the anniversary of Iranian Revolution. What do you expect? Do you expect a lot of audience, or you think people will be busy celebrating 22nd Bahman?
Well, the fact is, the exhibition that I have put together in Tehran, which is my first solo exhibition ever in Iran, by the way, has taken a form that I wanted to be completely out of format. I try in my work to disrupt what is weighted of me most of the time. I like surprising. I like being off the book. I like being off format as much as I can. And in that instance, I made friends with Siavash Sufinejad, that's an alternative blogger in Iran, that got interested in my work 2-3 years ago. And we decided, instead of working through an art gallery or an art space, we went on to work together and create a pop-up, a 3-day marathon pop-up, where only one artwork will be displayed and unveiled, meaning that nobody has ever seen that artwork apart from the people that have handled it and stretched it. And it will be unveiled on the Bisot Bahman on the 11th of February, on Revolution Day. And it is for me also a happiness to today announce it for the first time. The work will be called Inqilab, which in English means revolution. You will understand why I chose that day.
I see. So young generation of Iranian first became interested in your work. So they were contacting you to have exhibition in Iran, not vice versa, right?
I have been very attentive to the voices, and especially the younger generation's voices coming towards me, and what have they've been asking via the social networks, and it is true that when Siavash made the move to propose to work with me in this completely unformatted way, made me directly interested. I got curious right away, and we are going to work in a showroom that's called the Villa Sofia, that's just off Balinas, and in the Eloye area, and that is usually a display area for design. It's a design shop that's going to be basically cleared and turned into a pop-up where my work will be displayed at a certain time on the 11th of February and not before, meaning that piece is in Iran now, has been sent in Iran. Its size is 4 meters 44, and it's called Revolution. I'd like to say, if you give me the opportunity, that it also it honors the memory of a great Iranian photographer, Abbas Attar, that was one of the most famous war photographers of his generation, and died last year.
Yes, his works were on time during the revolution, remember?
Well, there you are. This is the first time I go on the record on the storyline of that work. I had the opportunity at the passing of my grandfather, Farmanfarmaian, to get his boxes in my workshop opened, and there was a copy of a Newsweek dating of the first week of 1979, and if you calculate well, it was the last issue of Newsweek ever to be published under the reign of the Shah. He left the week after. Yes. And obviously in that piece that was called Iran in Chaos, you had a central spread on which Abbas had worked, and there was an incredible picture of the violence in the streets there taken by Abbas at an incredible moment. This is going to be something. So I worked on that picture, that exact picture, and through friends in common I had with him in Paris, namely Nilufari Abri, that's the screenwriter and a journalist based in Paris. I was introduced and I went to visit him in his apartment Rue Le Pic, and there was a film crew from Iran that was actually doing a documentary on him at that point. So they put me on the record too that day, and our meeting was entirely documented. I never found these guys afterwards. I'm still looking, but it was very, very funny to see that my record, my meeting with Abbas was put on the recording of a documentary that day, and we spent half an hour together. He said that he wanted my work to be part of his legacy foundation that he was building at the time. I went back to my workshop to start processing the artwork, and he died 5 days later.
Yeah, we are very sorry to lose him. He was a great photographer and artist, and he covered most of the revolution for Time magazine. Yeah, it's a really pity that he's lost.
And the story of that work is intimately linked to that fact, and the connection that I wanted to create at a time where on top we were about to celebrate the 40 years, or celebrate, let's say at least get to the point where we could realize that 40 years had passed since the revolution. That was last year, 2019. The work was sent to Iran on that year. And I was looking forward to maybe process an exhibition at the end of last year, but by organizational terms, it couldn't happen. And finally, the decision was taken with Vash that we would go for Revolution Day this year. So, I mean, all these circumstances led for the project to finish on Revolution Day in 2020. And I was projected into the news cycle as all of the last events that we've been seeing for the last 10 days have unraveled.
Firouz, how do you feel you're not there in Iran while your exhibition is open?
Well, it's a question that's been mostly asked by all the people that want to attend, that are asking me if they're going to meet me. And to tell you the truth, I won't be able to attend for multiple reasons. One is that I have to also organize and attend an exhibition in Marrakesh that's been backed by the Magic of Persia Foundation and by the Flora Family Foundation that I take parenthesis to thank here, as well as my cousin, Dr. Amir Farmanfarmaian. And so all these little overlaps didn't help me. But the truth is, at this point, I don't think it also be a good idea for me to go around at this moment.
Yes, that I agree. But my question was that how do you feel that you are not there? Didn't you want to be there just to feel the audience and see your countrymen and women, see how they feel about your work?
I obviously been out of Iran since the revolution, and the fact that I have been out of Iran since the revolution came to me as a pain since I'm a child. And the fact that I call this artwork revolution also underlines the fact that I lived my life, the whole process of my life without word. That word has been my crucifix, my life. And then on, obviously, to answer you sincerely how I feel, obviously, I would rather be there.
Yeah.
But it is also, how to say, legitimate of me to say
exactly.
that work in absentia as it's supposed to be.
Well, perhaps you won't be there physically, but spiritually, I believe you're there.
I will be spiritually there, especially to pray with all of Iran and all those that love Iran, or the 176 people that were lost in that plane crash. I mean, that was a tragedy that we are all still crying and mourning. And I mean, there are things that I read. There is, for instance, one quote that struck me very personally is the story of Farmanfarmaian Ashtari, that's a member of the Qashqai tribe, and that had gone to Canada to study and grown to be a doctor, and that had her whole career organized around the idea that the tribal matter, or let's say the tribal nomadic heritage, had its own message to give out in front of the crisis, and I'm talking about the environmental crisis in the world. And she had attended only lately to the UN Convention on Biological Diversity, and she said that if you care about nature, well, where the nomads may be your best allies. And this is something I have been constantly believing, as I come from a clan also. We come all in Iran from tribes that were once nomads. But we believe that there is something very, very interesting in the tribal system, as it entails the respect of memory, the respect of nature, and I can't stop thinking that I will always be an advocate to the global indigenous movements, and like her, I support the National Federation of Iranian Nomadic Tribes.
Yeah, tell us about your show in Morocco. You are talking about the tribes and the wisdom of tribe could save the world. Is it your message?
Well, I think that there has been somehow a problem in the postmodern idea of the nation state. I think that the world has come to a moment where industrialization has corrupted a lot of its natural resources, and that I think that to link with that with this planet spiritually, we need to connect with some kind of archaic way to see ourselves. And Dariush Shaligan has organized a very beautiful thought around the idea that if ecology is the science that is out there to save what is left of the natural habitat, well, the ecology of the soul might be the connection to our archaic selves. And I believe in that. And our archaic selves are our tribal selves. And when Farmanfarmaian says that if you care about nature, nomads are your biggest allies, well, yes, I think that the tribal substance has in itself a lot still to give to humanity. And my show in Marrakesh is called the Memorandum of the Unknown Path. It's like some kind of moment where the unknown path of this new century is lying in front of us, and there's a lot of questions to be answered. And in that sense, I trusted the idea of tribal substance going down to the Sahara, sourcing camel wool tents from the Saharian Tuareg nomads, and painting 8 banners around a Sufi circle in the Royal Theatre of Marrakesh, in 8 banners that I call the imaginary banners, that I finally call the banners of the unvanished, which are 8 banners that represent 8 imaginary tribes, meaning an idea of imaginary unity. At the end of the day, trespassing the physical barriers through imagination and through substance of memory, we can get to understand each other better.
Yeah.
Question to return to the source, the ecology of the soul, of the spirit, is a necessary restoration of a link to our millenary archaic selves, an urge to create, a sense of time, to weave your wheels along sacred unknown paths.
I saw a film you sent me, and also I saw it on social media. What about that? Why you made that film? What is the message?
Well, we've been knowing each other for a couple of years, Frida, and you know to what extent process is a center in my work. The process is an integral part of my work, meaning the conclusion of it is as important as its development. And to underline that, I have started to work on 2 different types of objects, and one of them is a filmic object, which in an experimental form creates video and sound, and on the other, following the process. And on the other side, what I call proto-books, which are a mixture of cahiers that I call study books. In French, cahier is a study book. That is a continuous annotation of the development of my thought as I develop my project, and with the sketches and the studies. I do a selection of those, and I create a limited edition catalog, which is more of a journal that I present at one of which will be presented at the Memorandum of the Unknown Path. It's opening on the 21st of February. Will also be its book signing. And on the other hand, Tarhim Tadunit, which is the result of the sourcing of my exhibition, as I have traveled deep down south in the southern parts of Morocco to connect with the nomadic Amazigh Berberic culture, in order to source the tent, in order to have it woven and have it prepared. I created a video document that mixes also sound and the poetry I wrote on the road. Finally, it's a road book that is also sonic, that has sonic sound. I call it soundscape and videoscape. So, well, yes, I try to document the process through these different avenues.
So you are going to have another event in Los Angeles. It's an auction, yes?
Absolutely. I tend every year to work with 2 of the most, I think, powerful and interesting foundations in diasporic society. The IHF, the Iranian Heritage Foundation on one side, and Shirley Albanyan's Magic of Persia, which is that blazes the way. And every year I tend to donate works. This year I have donated the Portrait of a Berber Woman panel number 3, which is an unpublished and it didn't make it to the show in London last year, Permanence of Trace, where I worked with the Amazigh Berberic people and tribes had come to a conclusion, and I decided to donate it to Magic of Persia, as they are also supporting my show in Marrakesh. I think the triangulation between them supporting my show in Marrakesh and myself donating a piece that was inspired by my travels and my reflections in Moroccan culture had more than a mirroring.
Thank you very much, Firouz, for your time and being on the show. And I hope one day you could be physically be able to be in Iran with your paintings and meet your people.
I thank you, Frida, for your time too, and I hope to talk to you soon in person.
So.